Hey everyone, Josh here. So welcome back to the channel. So today's video is going to be a bit of a change of pace of what we normally work on. So if you're new here and you find this video helpful, please consider subscribing. I'm hoping to hit the 1,000 mark here shortly into January. And if you're tuning in again, you know that I normally work on Mark 4 and 5 TDIs as well as some V10 TDI Touaregs. They're all kind of personal vehicles or family and friends I kind of maintain. But we got one black sheep in the family, and that would be my sister's NMS Passat. So that is the only common rail that I kind of take care of. So if you know much about them, you know they are notorious for plugging heater cores. So much so that they extended the warranty to 120,000 miles, sorry. So if you're clicking on this video and you're under that mark, I would consider calling Volkswagen and getting it done under warranty. This car is obviously out of warranty, and that's why I'm doing it. So we're gonna go over a few obvious telltale signs that the heater core is plugged up. You obviously don't have heat, but there's a pretty quick and easy test to know that the heater core has failed. We're gonna do some failed science experiments that didn't quite work out the way I had planned it to. And then gonna do a coolant flush, remove the old one. I've got the old one cut apart over there that we'll check into later. And then we'll get this new one here installed so we can have some heat. So we'll start at the beginning, and then once we get caught up to here, we'll carry on. And I guess we'll take a look at the plugged one. Okay, so we're gonna check vent temperature here. So you don't necessarily have to do this. This is just kind of a scientific measurement, I guess. Not so scientific measurement. So use thermometer. It's about 5 degrees Celsius, so I'm going to use Celsius because that's what I measure temperature in here in Canada. It's about -1.5 outside. So basically it's up to temperature. We're going to check the 4 dash vents, and the passenger one should be cooler than the driver one. So I'm going to turn the fan on. We probably won't be able to hear me very clear, and then we'll see what it says. So that's just under 10 degrees, which is pretty cool for a heater. So that one's just under 15 degrees. I can feel this one's quite a bit warmer. All right, so I'm gonna say that one's 25. Yeah, it's about 25. So we'll compare that to once the new heater core's in. I'll probably put a drop down for the temperature here right now, what the new one's gonna be like. But I sure hope it's a lot warmer than 25 degrees when the engine's 90. So you're just gonna wanna make sure you do the obvious. You wanna check, make sure the air flaps work, the temperature gets up to temperature, you don't have a sticking thermostat. But with this passenger vent being so much cooler than the driver's side, it's almost a guarantee that it's the heater core in this NMS Passat. So I guess we're gonna get inside and dig into some science now, I guess. So here's the sciencey kind of part. There's kind of two theories on why these heater cores are plugging up so frequently. There's Volkswagen's theory and other people's theory, I guess. Volkswagen is saying there's excessive flux in the heater or in the coolant system, which is causing the coolant to be acidic and causing the aluminum to corrode and basically cause aluminum oxide or aluminum rust basically, and it's going to plug the finest cooler or whatever, so that would be the heater core. So that's the one idea. The other thought is coolant goes through your EGR cooler and then straight into your heater core. So the idea is the EGR with these Volkswagen with the emission fixed ones, they're going to be running more EGR, possibly kind of baking the coolant, kind of like when you have a coolant leak on the block and it turns into that powdery paste. So the other idea is that's kind of getting baked off and that's getting stuck in the passages. I'm going to cut this one apart and we're going to see what happened to this one. But before I drain it, I'm going to use these pH strips I got off Amazon, as well as a John Deere coolant test strip that I borrowed from work. I didn't want to use just the John Deere one because it's only meant for CoolGuard 2, which is John Deere's coolant. This is actually got Volkswagen coolant in it, so I didn't know if that was going to be real accurate. And the pH strips I got off Amazon, I tested it with tap water, I licked it, I think I peed on one, and they were all 7 or 8 pH, so I don't know if it's just fancy paper or if my tap water and my tongue and my pee is all the same. So I figured I'd kind of double up and see what happens, see what the pH is of this coolant before I drain it. And also, the other thing I've got is some Rad Flush. So it's supposed to dissolve coolant gels. So if it's coolant kind of turning into gel basically, it should be able to clean everything out that's in there, and we should be able to start from fresh. I'm hoping to bypass the cooler or the heater core and basically run it with it bypassed to kind of get everything flushed. I don't really want to put that flush stuff in through the heater core and then get a bunch of junk floating around in the system. I'm just not sure what the hoses look like underneath, so I'm not sure if that's doable yet. So we'll get into that when we cross that bridge. But yeah, so Volkswagen's recommendation with the TSB is to drain what's in there, refill it, get it up to temperature, drain it again, I think refill it again, drain it, and then do the heater core, and then put fresh stuff in again. So you're flushing it, I guess, twice. You're getting the old stuff out, flushing it twice, putting heater core in with more fresh stuff yet. So I guess we're gonna kind of follow that idea and probably have some of that flushing stuff in it, and we'll see what happens. So we're gonna test the pH first and then drop the coolant. I don't know, I guess I'd say that's somewhere between 7 and 8, that's the same as all my control tests, I guess. So then the John Deere one has multiple tests. The first one's glycol, which I would probably say is 40%-ish. The pH is really low on this test. I've never seen it this low with John Deere coolant, at least. It's 6 on here. And then the CI, or like cavitation inhibitor, it just doesn't really read on here. So I don't know, I would definitely say the pH is a 6, which I think anything below 7 should be a drain and refill. So I'm going to try and find some fresh coolant here somewhere and then test it. So I think I got my hopes up for nothing. So that's my fresh coolant. So these two are from my existing coolant. The top one there is from my tongue, and that's from the fresh coolant. It all looks identical. And I haven't been drinking coolant, so that doesn't really skew the test result. And my John Deere test strips, they're just as yellow. So I just don't think that's meant to test the coolant of the G13. Volkswagen coolant. So maybe there's better testers out there than what I got, but I would not recommend Universal Test Papers pH test strips. So I don't know. I thought that was coolant specific, but I might have changed my mind and got a different one. I don't know. But anyways, I don't think this test really worked very well. So I'm gonna drain the coolant and get some fresh stuff in with the blue Gatorade cleaner stuff. So with the shield off underneath here, I'm just gonna pull the clamp off of here, off of the, I assume that's the pump for the air to water intercooler. Drain some of the coolant out, and then we'll go inside and get the heater core out. Okay, so with that line off that pump at the bottom, that is all the coolant I got. As you can see, it's orange where it's supposed to be pink. There's a pile of crap in the bottom. So, fairly confident the Passat's supposed to hold more coolant than that. That's a couple liters at most. So back from our first test drive with the rad flush and some fresh coolant in it. I don't know, it kind of looks pinky, orangey, bluey, I don't know. So we're gonna drain this coolant out again, gonna fill up some more fresh stuff in it, take it for another drive, and then we're gonna do the heater core. So I'm not gonna video this, as we kind of covered off the first time. So here's the first flush. There's a couple bigger chunks in there. I don't think anything fell in it like from outside, so I think it came from inside the system. Still doesn't look real pink. It doesn't look as orange either, so we're gonna fill it up again and go for another test drive. So here we're at the third drain, or the second flush basically, before replacing the heater core. The coolant's nice and pink now. There's still a few chunks of stuff in there. Nothing too terribly bad, so I think we're gonna change the heater core here now. And I might do one more drain and refill. Coolant's pretty cheap, so guess we'll see what happens here with the heater core. So 2 steps to get these out. Get the bolts across the front there. And then you have this hidden one that's in behind this cover, which is just basically up there. Now you just got these 2 locks. You just gotta get in there with a flat screwdriver to kind of get it down, and then just pop that out. And that hidden bolt's right there. And then the OBD2 port, you've got the 1 lock on the top and 2 on the bottom. So I found that you slide a flat screwdriver, small flat screwdriver in the bottom this way to kind of release those locking tabs. And then that top one, you can either pry a bit or it just kind of comes off. So up next, we're gonna get this panel off here. Just this one bolt up there, I think. Then we should be getting pretty close. Yeah, so once you get that screw out there, you gotta kind of slide it back to get that lock out. And then it's just straight down for all these clips here. So that's not too hard to get out. And the heater core is in behind that black cover there. So we'll get those bolts out and then see what we're getting ourselves into. So that's kind of tricky to film while I'm upside down in there. But so you got the 4 bolts that hold it on, and then the one that's up here, you kind of got to tweak it around this main wire. So now we're at the heater core, so we've got these 2 clamps here, and then basically that outside line slips over top of our heater core, We have the O-ring there. So we're gonna see if we can get it loosened off enough without having to touch the bolts in the engine bay, but we might have to yet. I guess we're gonna see. I'm gonna get a bucket in here and some paper towel and try and catch most of this coolant here. So here it is all cut apart. So pretty scaly. This side's worse yet. So you can see all the chunks jammed in the passageway. So that's not going to help coolant flow. And you're going to notice a lot of that is the orange gunk that we were getting out of the coolant when we were flushing it. It's very dry and brittle. So I'm not sure what to make out of that, whether that is dried up coolant or if that's rusty coolant or what's going on here. But so that date code on it, I believe 32712. My other one is 06721. So this would be 2021, and I'm pretty certain that would be the original heater core 2012, which this is a 2013 model. So that's kind of impressive, whereas some people are doing 3 a year. So yeah, so that's what the plugged ones looks like. So my camera died right before reassembly, so I just thought I'd show this quickly before it dies again. So there's a right way and a less right way of doing this. So there's a bolt from the firewall this way. It kind of holds these lines solid. It's a real pain in the ass spot to get at, so I didn't touch it. So technically you're supposed to loosen that off to give this a little bit of play to help get the heater core in. So if you have more play, you can push this in, slide these back, get them lined up, slide that over, you're good to go. If you don't undo that bolt, you're gonna have to flex these lines a little bit and flex these lines a bit. What worked best for me was slide it in most of the way, kind of until the heater core hit this side here like that, and then kind of pull the lines down. And as you kind of pull down over, get this line over and kind of started on this heater core first, because this line here doesn't have a whole lot of flex, whereas this line does. So if you can get this one started, then you can get this one, worry about it afterwards, slide it all in. You're gonna have a big gap here. So if you take needle nose pliers, you can just kind of get onto the shoulder here and just kind of squish it together. And now you're ready for the gas, or for the clamps. So while my camera's still alive, this is the heater core that I used from Volkswagen, and this is the gasket like the O-ring and the clamps. You technically don't have to replace the clamps, like there's nothing really wrong with them, but the O-ring I would definitely recommend replacing. So yeah, I'm gonna tidy that up and get the phone charging up and then do a test drive. Yeah. So here it's all filled up with coolant. You'll obviously want to check for leaks, make sure it's not leaking, dripping. Else you have a big coolant mess in here. It doesn't hurt to take it for a test drive with all this stuff off to make sure you're 100% good, which I did. So I know I'm not leaking anywhere. So now I can reassemble this. I'm not going to video this if you took it apart. There's nothing real complicated to go back together. So we're back from our first test drive. We're not quite up to temperature, but we're not too far off. And we are at 50 degrees Celsius, so that's, I think that was about 120. So it's a lot better than the 10 or 15 degrees that it was. So I think we're good. Might make a bypass loop out of the old one in case when this one plugs up. Stick the bypass loop in and run it for a bit and try and make sure all of that material's out. Yeah, I'm sure that stuff can get plugged up in corners and everywhere, and lots of hoses and coolers and stuff for it to get trapped in, so I'm sure there's more in there yet. So I guess we'll play it by ear and see how this goes, and there might be a new and improved Josh Jetta's way of doing this heater core yet. So if there is, I'll make sure to put it in the description. So stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching. Hope this helped.